Hello everybody, I am David Hickson and I'd like to welcome you to our fourth Trader Chat. The date is the 7th of September 2011 and so without further ado, let's get into the body of what we're going to speak about today. And first of all, of course, we need to run through our disclaimer. You should be aware that all trading involves risk. Be aware and accept this risk before trading. Never trade with money you cannot afford to lose. You should also know that past performance of any trading methodology is no guarantee of future results. And we are making no representation in this webinar that any account will achieve profits or losses similar to those discussed. And you should be very aware that all results should be considered to be hypothetical unless otherwise specified. And hypothetical performance results have many inherent limitations and, unlike an actual performance record, do not represent actual trading. Let's run through the way in which the webinar works. We are using a software called NetViewer to broadcast our webinar. We chose NetViewer because it is a very interactive platform. Nevertheless, the best way to ask questions is to type the question into the chat window. You can also speak. I am able to enable up to 6 microphones at one time. So if you would like to speak, and if you have a headset, if you don't have a headset, then there will be audio howl around, and that's not very nice. So if you would like to speak and you have a headset, then you can right-click to indicate this. That pops up a little microphone icon on my screen, and you should also please enter a chat message saying that you really want to speak, because many people right-click accidentally. And it's a little bit boring if I sit here saying, would you like to speak? Hello, shall I open your microphone? That's all a bit boring. You should be aware that there is a delay in the audio, which makes this the less preferred method. So if you want to ask a question, there's often a second or two delay between you asking the question and me answering. So that's a bit disturbing, which is why we prefer to use messages in the chat window. You should also be aware that a left click of your mouse in the NetViewer window displays a pointer with your name attached to it. It's very useful if you're trying to point something out to me, but it is distracting if you're not, so please try to avoid doing it. And of course, we are a first-timer offer. If you're a first-timer, and I see there are many people who are first-timers in today's session, if this is the first Trader Chat that you've attended, then you qualify for our first-timer special offer, a 20% discount on the initial price of Sentient Trader. It's valid for 24 hours from the start of this webinar. We did this because we found some people like to make decisions very quickly, and we felt we should reward them for that. So if you'd like to claim your first-timer discount, send a private message to Paul Johnson. Select Paul's name from the drop-down list in the chat window, and Paul will send you a discount coupon, which is valid for 24 hours, and instructions for making your purchase. It's a no-obligation discount coupon. You're not obliged to do anything. Finally, of course, we have announced that we are going to be conducting Sentient Trading workshops again. We did these for several months at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. We haven't done them for a while because of various other work that we've been busy with. But we've had quite a lot of demand for doing the workshops, so we are bringing them back. A power tool in the hands of a novice can be dangerous. Sentient Trade is very powerful software, but if you don't know what you're doing, it could be dangerous to your financial future, and we don't want that to happen. So we would really encourage you to come along to the workshops. They are 3-day intensive workshops. I thoroughly enjoy them. In some ways, the greatest benefit of the workshop is actually just being together and talking about things and talking about ideas. Sharing things on the workshops. So those are really useful. We're planning workshops in Europe, Australia, and the USA. And so if you would like to let us know where you would like to attend a workshop or when, all that kind of thing, then please complete the short survey at the link that's provided here. If you'd just like to request some information or to book a place in a workshop, then send us an email at info@sentienttrader.com. All right, so now let's get down to the real thing. I have a lot to talk about again today. What happens is during the week we collect questions from emails and we decide what would be the best things to speak about. Today I'm going to be speaking about FLDs, future lines of demarcation, and about VTLs, and about how one uses them in performing trading. For those of you, of course, who are experienced Sentient traders, this will be old material. but I hope you'll still find something of interest in it, particularly as I intend to share some of the things that I've learned about FLDs and VTLs in the course of writing the software, developing the software. There's some very interesting things that I discovered that aren't generally widely known and haven't been much discussed. After that, I'm going to come back to revise the building trading history process. We have been getting many emails about that, particularly what to do if you build a trading history and there aren't any trades, which is a very, very common issue. So, that's the plan for today. So let's get down to it. The first thing that I'm going to speak about, let me end this slideshow. There we go. The first thing I'm going to speak about are FLDs. And then we're going to speak about VTLs, and then we're going to look at them on the charts, and we're going to see how they work. In the workshops, we spend a good morning speaking only about FLDs and VTLs. They are very, very important cyclic tools. FLDs and VTLs are cyclic tools that are used to both perform your analysis and also to perform trading decisions, to generate trading signals. You make trading decisions on the basis of FLDs and VTLs. So they're really very, very important. In today's Traders Chat, I don't want to speak about them for more than about half an hour. So I'm going to skim some of the details, but I'm going to go through things as thoroughly as I can in the time that we have available to us. Let me first of all speak about FLDs. What is an FLD? An FLD stands for Future Line of Demarcation. It is something that Hurst devised. It's a very simple indicator, basically, that you can plot on a chart. And the way that it works is that an FLD is very simply the price movement displaced some distance into the future, to the right. So here I have a Microsoft Excel chart. You can see a thick blue line, which is this blue line here, which is, of course, a sine wave. It's a very idealistic representation of a cycle, and in fact there are two complete waves of this cycle, as you can see. And then there is a dashed lighter blue line, which is the FLD of this blue line. So let's say that this blue line was in fact a price movement, and it is a perfect price movement. It moves in a perfect cycle. So this is a price movement. Then the FLD that we have applied to that price movement in this case is this dashed blue line. And as I think you can see, all that we have done is we have displaced the price to the right, which of course in a financial chart means you're displacing it into the future by a certain distance. Now, what distance do we displace it? Well, we displace it by approximately half the length, the current wavelength of the cycle for which we are plotting the FLD. All right. Her cyclic principles stipulate, of course, that the price movement in a financial market is constituted by the combined effect of an infinite number of cycles. We cannot consider an infinite number, so we consider as many as we can. We usually consider about 11 of them. And for each one of those cycles, you can plot an FLD. So for each one of the cycles that is present in the analysis that you're performing, you can plot an FLD. And that FLD is simply the price movement displaced by approximately half the cycle length. So if I said to you, this is a 40-day cycle, FLD, then that means that I have displaced the price movement by half of the 40-day wavelength, which is of course 20 days. Now, why do I say approximately? Because there is a subtlety involved that I will mention. I'm not going to dwell on it, but there is a subtlety. Hurst recommended that you divide the wavelength of a cycle by 2, and then you add 1. So if the actual current wavelength of our 40-day cycle is 40 days, then the FLD number, as he called it, which is simply the number of bars that you displace the FLD by, is calculated by dividing the 40-day wavelength into 2, giving us 20, and then adding 1, giving us a total figure of 21, which means that we displace the price movement by 21 bars to the right. Okay. Now, there are occasions where we don't displace it by 21, where we don't add that 1, but we simply displace it by exactly half half the wavelength, and that depends what kind of an FLD you are building. Let me not get complicated. Let's just stick with the basic, which for now is the standard FLD, half the wavelength plus 1 bar. Okay, and that's how much you displace price. Now, here you can see an idealized price movement, and it has been displaced, and there's the FLD. Let's have a look at a real price movement and have a look at an FLD on this price movement. There we go. Let me zoom in a bit, and I hope that you can see that FLD. Let me actually choose a different FLD, which will be a brighter color. There we go. That's the 80-day FLD. Now, a financial chart, of course, contains all the price information on the chart, and each one of these bars represents, in this case, 1 day's worth of trading, and these are candlestick bars. The lowest point on each bar is the lowest price at which this instrument, the S&P 500, was traded on that particular day. The highest part of the bar is the high price, and then you have the body of the candle, which is constructed between the opening price, the first price of the day, and the closing price, the last price of the day. And if the opening price is higher than the closing price, in other words, price moved downwards, then that is a red bar, a red body, and otherwise it is a green body. So in fact, each one of these bars contains 4 pieces of price information. So I've just said that an FLD is created by displacing price information to the right. Well, which piece of price information do we displace? Do we displace the open, the high, the close, or the median? The median is the midpoint between the high and the low. So the standard FLD, which Hurst recommended, displaces the median price. Okay, the median price is the midpoint between the high and the low. Here we are looking at a chart which contains all those pieces of information. In Sentient Trader, you can have a look at a chart where you only plot the median price. There it is, a line on median chart. There is that median price. And now if you have a look at the price that is presented here on the chart, you will see that here the price rose up to a peak on the 7th of July, and the FLD has been simply displaced to the right. There it is on the 9th of August. So the FLD is a line that is plotted, which is simply the median price displaced to the right. Now, the median price is used when you're considering the FLD in terms of analysis and for confirming the positioning of troughs and peaks, in other words, for analysis type decisions. You can also use the FLD, and I'm not going to speak much about it in today's webinar because it becomes a little more complicated, but you can use an FLD which is based upon either the high price or the low price to make trading decisions. Okay, you can display the FLD based on the high or the low price in Sentient Trader by simply using this toolbar button over here. I can display the FLD based on the high price, which displays it as a dashed line. You probably can't see that in very good detail on your screens, but that is in fact a dashed line, which is the high price FLD. And we can also display the low price FLD, also a dashed line. And what's happening here is that Sentient Trader is displacing not the median price, but the low price. I think you can see here this point, which is there, is lower than this median. If I switch back to candlestick display, you'll see that point lines up with the low on this bar. And similarly, this peak over here lines up with the low over there during the weekend, as a matter of interest. Okay.